sort of engaging you with you at eye level.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Nick, were you pushed or did you leave voluntarily the Ministry of Defence? Was it a happy occasion?
Oh, I left entirely of my own volition, yes. The Defence Intelligence Staff, in fact in this case DI-52, carried out the initial assessment of the radiation readings and, as I was able to confirm in later years, said, yes, they are significantly higher than background. The United States Air Force were taking witness statements from Peniston, Burroughs, Kivanusak, Buran, and these witness statements were not passed to the Ministry of Defence. So you had two investigations, each investigation having important pieces of the puzzle which weren't then shared with the other witnesses, particularly Jim Peniston, who of course actually got close enough to touch the side of the thing on the first night. That Jim Peniston, yes, feels that this thing might have been a craft from the future as opposed to any sort of extraterrestrial vehicle. Yes, the 1993, the March 1993 sightings were an important turning point for me personally, I think, in my belief about UFOs.
That was the thing that actually switched it?
It was one of the things. I think the other thing was access to the formerly classified files and delving back into, of course, files that have been classified secret UK eyes only and such like, dating back to the 50s.
Not classified? What qualifies a particular file or case in that regard to suddenly become available to other eyes?
The Freedom of Information Act. The MOD has to follow the letter of the law, so any application for UFO documents or files has to be considered against the criteria in the Freedom of Information Act. Now, of course, there are exemptions for defence, for national security. And what you would do, the presumption is that you release. That's the interesting point. So it's a mind shift, as it were, from previously when the presumption was not to release. So your start point is, I'm going to have to release this.
Is there anything in the Ministry of Defence files or any other files which does allude to any actual contact with ETs in underground facilities in this country?
There's nothing in the MOD files that I've seen that indicates any contact with extraterrestrial entities,
or shall we say non-human entities,
or indeed non-human entities. No,
not as necessarily as supposedly they all have to be extraterrestrial.
No, there's nothing in the files on that. But I think just again to perhaps give you an idea of the way in which the UFO project works. It worked with me almost. I'm going to use the analogy of the spider in the centre of the web, but and I'm sure my critics will have something to say about that. Yeah. But effectively, I was running the project, and there was, as it were, a loose network of experts who I could draw upon, whose expertise, whose equipment, whose time I could draw upon on an as and when basis. I mean, some radar systems, for example, use filter programs to filter out objects which are either too fast or too slow. Typically, air traffic control radars and things.
They just want to concentrate.
They just want to concentrate on the aircraft. But the consequence of this, of course, is very interesting. The consequence is that anything that doesn't, generally speaking, behave like an aircraft won't be picked up, either because the filter program will filter it out altogether, or because the operator, even if it's in, will filter it out with the critical faculties.
So you could have a UFO tracking a civil airliner, and the UFO wouldn't come up on civilian radar.
Absolutely. But some UFOs, some visual sightings are correlated with radar data, but then some UFOs that we're pretty sure are big and solid and structured craft aren't necessarily detected on radar. So it's not the sort of it's not the universal panacea, as it were. It's
and
just
of course we can't discuss whether a stealth aircraft is stealthy or the level of stealthiness.
You can discuss it all you like, but I can't. Yeah. I'm afraid.
On a completely different track, some evidence has been surfacing in the last years about underground facilities in this country involving civilians and some kind of genetic engineering, the creation of strange creatures. Some researchers have suggested that the abductions which are happening are actually done by the military using some kind of genetically engineered being. Do you have any data on that?
I am very suspicious of this so-called MyLab theory. To me, not only is that totally illegal and unethical, it to me goes against everything that the British government and the British military believe in and stand for.
There have been suggestions there are bases in Wales doing that under US control and bases in Berkshire.
I've seen no evidence that would bear out any of that.
No defence significance. Yearly MOD or Worley MOD. In Britain, our UFO monthly magazine is run with police officers. That seems to sort of imply that there's an official level by some mechanism or other to tell the general public about UFOs. Can you extrapolate perhaps a few years when maybe the equivalent of Tony Blair is going to stand up in the House of Commons and actually admit and say that we do have UFOs?
I think this is going to be events-led. Clearly we are seeing an ongoing programme of disclosure by the Ministry of Defence, both on its website and at the National Archives in Kew. We see, for example, the release of Project Condign, the Condign Report, 464 pages, formerly secret UK eyes only classification. A few years ago, unheard of that material like that would be disclosed.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the point. I mean, there's going to be...
And more to come.
Yeah.
There are some cases which I would say, on reflection, are probably as good, as significant as the Rendlesham Forest incident, as the overflight of RAF Cosford and RAF Shawbury in '93, as the case from Belgium in 1991 when F-16 fighters were scrambled to intercept a UFO that was being tracked on radar. There are cases of that level. Unfortunately, all I can really do is give people... Now, I'm working with a lot of researchers.
I mean, you said that you really do want to see these cases.
Yeah. So what I can't do is, as it were, forestall the MOD. Let's face it. The nation on Earth that actually acquires extraterrestrial technology and is able to then adapt it and use it is going to be the dominant nation on planet Earth for the next 10,000 years. These are high stakes.
There have been cases in Portugal, Venezuela, the United States, South Africa, where UFOs have been fired on by military jets. Are there any cases like that in Britain?
Not in recent years. We've certainly, of course, fired on them with gun cameras, but I better not answer that question. Please judge me on the data, not the sort of prejudice. That's what I would say to the world of ufology.
During your time, did you ever meet any ETs in the military? When you got your special advisor?
If I did, I wasn't aware at the time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.